Hello. Welcome to the Refined Savage Podcast, the top podcast out there. That's probably not true. But anyhow, we're back. Another episode of the Refined Savage Podcast. Let's do a little business before we get started today. Viking Coffee. Viking Coffee is the best coffee I have ever had. I love it. I drink it all the time. Evan Armstrong, brewing out of Bowling Green, Ohio. Hey, he is a savage in his own right. The guy is an artist, former strength coach at Bowling Green University, now full-time coffee brewer, and he is a mad genius. I love his stuff. Got to give him a shout. VikingCoffeeCode.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout for 10% off. Check out that Refined Savage brand, old man strength brew coffee. Awesome stuff. Cerberus Strength. So if you are a Highland Games athlete, the season is ramping up. I started seeing some guys throwing this weekend. People are out practicing in those warmer climates. It's time to get some gear. So Cerberus is the leader in the strongman community, and they should be and soon will be the leader in the Highland Games community. You guys got to give these guys a holler. If you need knee sleeves, elbow sleeves, wrist wraps, smelling salts, tacky, they've got everything you could possibly need, and they are athletes. So they are one of us. Buy from people who are in the family, guys. Don't go to these, companies that don't have any skin in the game. Give them a shout. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code REFINESAVAGE10 at checkout for 10% off. The good folks at Warrior CBD want you to feel better. They want you to sleep better. They want your aches and pains to go away, don't we all? Check them out. CBD oil is the new thing, man. There's CBD oil in every gas station, grocery store, all over the planet. But there are levels to everything. And just like everything else, Warrior CBD, they're at a level different than everybody else. If you go to a gas station and get your CBD oil and you think to yourself, this really isn't doing much, that's because it's garbage. It's like essential oils that these hippies take. Don't fall for it. Check out Warrior CBD and get some good stuff, man. You can get on their Instagram and talk to the owner, Nancy, and she will help you with whatever you need question-wise. If you know what you want already, though, head on over to warriorcbdofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout for 20% off. Serious Steel. What fantastic human beings these guys are. Chad Clark got me in touch with these guys. I just love them to death. They're some of my favorite people on the planet. They're excited about strength and conditioning. They're excited about their equipment. They love seeing their stuff out there. They reposted one of the guys here in the gym using their stone sleeves. If you haven't checked out their stone sleeves, man, these things are awesome. You can tacky them up and then put them in a Ziploc bag and throw them in your bag. And then when it's ready to do stones again, you just slip the sleeves back on again. You don't have to worry about tacking your forearms. So check out Serious Steel. They've got a bunch of great products. Just check them out. They've got everything you need. Go there first if you're buying equipment for any kind of gym. SeriousSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout. Stay Classy Meats. Stay Classy Meats has just amazing meat. Meat delivered to your door in cooler boxes. It's like Christmas. When you see that box on your doorstep, you start getting excited. You know what's inside there. Check them out. You can go to their website, stayclassymeats.com. You can do a build your own box. You can do a subscription service. You can do the elite box like I get. It's not expensive. You're buying meat in bulk, so it's not that bad at all. And their animals are raised on small batch farms in the Bozeman, Montana area. They are drinking fresh Montana streams and eating fresh Montana grasses. No garbage, no antibiotics, no hormones pumped into these animals, and they're humanely processed. Just a great, great company. Great, great meat. I highly recommend. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout for 10% off. Impact Mouth Guards. These guys did a 3-month sponsorship with us, and I'm so happy. They are just a great company. These guys are passionate about making sure you don't get a traumatic brain injury. They are building these mouth guards custom made for you. And that's important because you can't just go to Target and get a mouth guard and expect it's going to keep your teeth healthy and your skull healthy. You got to get these things professionally done. They're not expensive at all. I think they were like $35 or something on the website. I mean, to protect your brain pan, that's pretty damn cheap. So if you're in a combat sport, if you're in jiu-jitsu, if you're in judo, boxing, football, lacrosse, if you're one of these nighttime teeth grinders, if you're a lifter looking to put more pounds on the bar, check out Impact Mouthguards. ImpactMouthguards.com. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE for 15% off. That's capital Refine, capital Savage, 15% off. Finally today, the beard struggle. If you have one of these giant mountain man beards that you need to take care of, and trust me, you need to take care of it, you guys, you can't be walking around with a nappy looking, gross looking beard, okay? It's going to smell. It's going to have like taco meat hidden in it. You got to get that thing groomed properly. So if you're going to have it, take care of it. The beard struggle. They have everything from beard balms and lotions and oils to combs and straighteners. Everything you can need to make sure you're groomed and looking fresh. Thebeardstruggle.com. Use the code REFINEDSAVAGE at checkout for 15% off. Guys, today on the show, we have the best, the one, the only, creator of 531 and the head strength and conditioning coach for the London Red Raiders football team right here in Ohio, Jim Wendler. We sat down at the high school, had a great conversation. I think we went for like 100 minutes or something like that. And just a really good dude, man. And it was good to hear him in a straightforward conversation talking about the stuff he wanted to talk about, as opposed to some of the podcasts out there where they forced him into these weird boxes where he had to talk about craziness. But we just had a great conversation. And hey, also, hopefully you'll enjoy this. We have all brand new mics. Finally, I think we have our sound quality down pat, so you guys can stop bitching at me. And I appreciate you guys bitching at me, because it forced us to really do some research and get the right mics for this. And Zach Pape and I are just meatheads doing our best to make this sound good and be a good podcast for you guys. So today on the show, Jim Wendler. I want you to sit back with some Viking coffee and some Stay Classy meats. Enjoy this podcast. Please, please, please share it with a friend. Share it with your enemies. Share it with your family. Please go to the iTunes and the Apple Podcast places and wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review and a comment. That makes a huge difference. I'm never going to charge for this podcast, but that kind of stuff really helps with sponsors to show how well we're doing with you guys. And I'm excited to release this podcast. So without further eloquence, here is Jim Wendler. See ya at the end. All right, go ahead, Sebastian Junger.
Yeah, so I saw a TED Talk with him about why he was stationed in, was it Restrepo?
Yeah, Restrepo.
And yep. I don't know the exact details, but like 75% of all the firefights happen within this small little community.
Yeah, the book was called War, wasn't it? Or was it Tribe?
Yeah, I didn't read the book,
yeah,
so I'm only
good.
Going on. So it was, his whole TED Talk was about, I think it was something like that. Was, you know, war is bad, but why do men love war? And what it was, you know, he was stationed, he was in horrible conditions, you know, face melting hot, the firefights were horrid, guys suffered horrible PTSD. But he asked like 10 of those guys, would they ever go back? I'll go back in a second.
Yeah, yep.
And, you know, I'm not advocating for war, but there is something to the male psyche that needs that kind of bleed together, yeah. Be together that we don't have in anywhere else. And the only thing that I can recreate it in that kind of team atmosphere is football. You can't really get it in the UFC
right.
or wrestling because it's so much, even though you're a team, you know, or whatever you want, a gym, it's not the same thing. And it's hard to get that in college and in the pros because college is turning to be such a business.
Right.
Especially the higher levels. Now at the lower levels it might be a little different. And obviously the pros is you know, and I'm not blaming the athletes. You got 5 years, 10 years,
yeah.
maybe.
Yep.
To get what you can. So, you know, the last kind of hope is high school football. And I'm not advocating for guys to go out and fucking kill each other. I'm saying that kind of togetherness where you kind of suffer together and you realize that people are relying on you. And
you have a job to do, and the guy next to you has a job to do, and you depend on that.
So, you know, one of the things, as part of our warm-up, we do a calisthenic-based warm-up that I got from it's not exactly from them, but there's a high school out in California that in the 60s and 50s maybe, I don't know exactly when, but they had the premier physical education program.
I've seen old videos of that when
Yeah.
Kennedy came out and said
Yeah.
the soft American.
Yeah, and so I was like, when I saw that, I'm like, well, shit, I got to start looking at this
Yep.
stuff. And so I started getting, there's not a lot of information on it. So you do what you can on the internet. And so we started doing that as part of our warm up. We got rid of all the bullshit, toe touches,
Yeah.
and all the speed. I'm like, you know what? If you can't do some basic calisthenics,
Yep.
and it's all rigid, it's all done on a count where I'm, leading the count. So, and one of the big things is I don't want a guy next to me who can't do a perfect push-up.
Right.
And that's one of the things we stress, and it sounds ridiculous because obviously most of our kids can do push-ups, but we have a lot of kids who can't.
Yeah.
And now you kind of put them in position where, like, you want to know why you're not playing, or you know how you can improve. You can just learn how to do push-ups,
right.
And all of a sudden the kids, they feel much more powerful. They feel great about themselves. We had a kid here. Now we have a lot of, for such a small town, we have some tremendous athletes. I don't want to pretend like we're a small, very small school, like 430 kids. But
it's a beautiful school for 430 kids.
And we're going to hopefully build a brand new training facility, like
wow.
right off here.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. But anyway, we had a kid who come in who couldn't bench a barbell, and dumbbell squat killed him.
Yeah.
So
what are you gonna do? Yeah.
It's tough. So he just after about a year, he benched 95 for 15.
Solid.
He squatted 100 for 25 or something.
Yep.
And he, is he gonna play? Probably not.
Yeah, but what are you doing for him as a human being?
And I know I've seen his parents, and so it's like.
Yeah.
You gotta, so you accept a lot of different roles here when it's no longer strength coach in high school. You're also the physical education teacher, and for some kids, you're a good role model, that they just don't have at home.
I've said that on this podcast 100 times, that my job has changed over the years from.
How long you been doing this shit?
96.
Okay, so now can you imagine what it was like in 85?
Yeah, right?
Kids coming in, what's going on?
Yeah, right.
Yep, so fuck yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
At least that's what I think it was like.
Well, they come in, and so they've never gone through a really good physical education program. They don't run a jump rope. They can't do an air squat. They can't do a push-up. We have a we call it the agogi. So we've got a bunch of junior high, early high school kids, and I let my partner or my gym manager run that because he's really into it, and he was telling me about their deadlifts are great, their benches, and I came in one day and took over for him for a class and had them doing push-ups, and they couldn't do push-ups right. I went back to them, I said, guess what? We're done doing all this shit until they can do 10 push-ups, and, so, and we took your goblet squat. We had them doing goblet squats with it, because if they can't do a goblet squat, I don't want them under a bar.
No, it's just simple prep, and it doesn't take a lot.
Yeah.
I remember because the weather gets bad here, because we condition year round.
Mm-hmm.
We don't condition hard ever.
Right.
That's one of our tricks. It's like studying for a test. You give me 5 minutes a night. Miraculously, you do pretty good at the end of the day.
Kind of greasing the groove.
Yeah, and that way the kids aren't. I remember playing football with a guy running 2100s. And that was after a 3-hour practice. I mean, what the fuck are you doing?
Sure, that was the standard MO when we were playing. Yeah.
And but one of the things that we do here is when the weather's bad, we just do simple calisthenics for time, and as part of our conditioning. Now, is it specific to football? No.
Right.
But it's general physical fitness is what I'm after with a lot of the kids. And I remember one of the other coaches came up from another sport. He's like, "Wow, I haven't seen this in." He had gray hair. He's like, "I haven't seen this in years. This is awesome." And I was like, "Well, I don't know any better."
And it's there's nothing new.
No.
So one of the things when we went to Swiss, I loved your seminar, and I loved Kaz and Cohen's seminar.
Yeah.
And you see all these 20-some-year-old strength coaches going to all these super high-level shit. I'm like, look.
Aren't you getting anything?
Right. This is the stuff that works. Go back and get the basics before you're.
Well, I have articles that I grew up with that were major influences. I have them in my house and set aside and stuff. And I read them a lot. And it's funny because back then, sport-specific training was the squat, bench,
Yep.
deadlift, clean,
Yep.
and push press and whatever. And it's like, if you say that now, it's like, oh, you're just powerlifting. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Boy, things have fucking changed.
Do you remember the Tony Mandrich?
Tony Mandrich is one of my fucking childhood heroes.
Was that, how many times did you read that article when it came out?
Probably, I don't know where they are, but my parents, I probably have 15 of those copies. I'll tell you a story. I was in 8th grade when that came out. So that was 1989.
How old are you?
44.
Okay, so I'm 46, but
Okay.
I remember I was probably
so you're a
freshman, sophomore. Yep.
So I had just got on a track meet, okay, and this was on a cinder track. It wasn't on a rubber track. That was back, and so, I had just finished running, and meet was over, and my dad was there, and he's like, you're not going to believe, because we got Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to believe who's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm like, Barry Sanders? He's like, nope. I'm like, Tony Mandrich? He's like, yep. I'm like, how big is he? He's like, oh, my God.
Gigantic. He had like the cut off football pants, just shirtless. Holy shit.
And he would, now of course, people like, and he had used steroids and stuff, but everyone was kind of using something.
Yeah.
So, but the bottom line is, as a young kid, I remember when I was probably, I had to be in grade school, because I remember the people around me being about certain ages. And at some point, we were at a hotel on a trip, and we never had cable growing up. So there was cable in the room, and they were showing, I guess it was Mr. Olympia or something. And the guys were all oiled up, and the guys were flexing their pecs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, and I had no idea, I'm like, there's no way that's normal.
Right.
And so...
You don't see that guy at the mall.
No, and I remember thinking, like, even then then by junior high, I had known what steroids were.
Yeah.
And
were they even illegal back then?
They were, no, not like they are.
Yeah.
No, they, after the Ben Johnson fiasco.
Right.
But I remember, like, if some guy was there's always freaks out there.
Sure.
But I was never, like, people say, like, they should tell the kids. I'm like, dude, how the fuck do you not know? I knew.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any information. I was like, no.
There's something going on here.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's funny because my son, he gets like, he's a thrower. So he looks at these guys, throwing 80-meter hammer throws, and he's like, yeah, okay, I get it. He's 6 feet tall and he can throw a hammer 80 meters. No problem.
It's now like the one thing that I was surprised at when I went to Arizona was I saw physical freaks for the first time.
Yeah, right. And they're all in Division I college football.
Yeah, and it's, now are there tons of them? No. But I saw a 375-pound guy, and he was fat. And he had ankles like a sprinter and calves like a sprinter.
Yeah.
And ass and thigh, like he was built like a woman.
Right.
All hippie and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can't believe we gave this kid a start. Then I watched him pull.
Right.
On a point guard, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. He pulled like a fucking ballerina. Beautiful, just graceful. And he played in the NFL for probably 12, 15 years.
Never wanted to touch a weight.
No,
just didn't need to.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit, how does a man that large, like, just move with the grace of like I said, a ballerina?
Yeah.
And so now, of course, there's always guys like Zach Thomas.
Yeah.
He plays, he was just very good at what he did. But there's these physical freaks that I think that people automatically think, like, well, I knew a kid in high school who benched 315. It's like, no, dude, these guys are so out of that fucking league.
Right, yeah.
And it's not because of drugs, it's just that,
John Welborn talks about that all the time on his podcast, that he had to bust his ass. He was constantly lifting and training.
And he's fucking big dude who's explosive.
But he said there was guys that would just walk in smoking a cigarette, put it down, bench 500, they never come back in the weight room.
And Welborn played with a guy, and I always ask him what it is, and what his name was, but he was a defensive end at Cal when I was there. And he was, 6'5", 260, he was their gunner on punting. He was that fast. And I remember being like, how the fuck is this possible?
Right.
And he was just, I don't know if he ever played in the pros. We had another freak like that at Arizona who was legitimately 6'4", probably 265, completely shredded.
Yeah.
A white dude. And he had a 42-inch vertical jump. And one year, I think he was second or third in the Pac-12. Or Pac-10 back then. in sacks, and he missed 5 or 6 games.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was so explosive that he would get hurt. Like his
Yeah.
tendons
Oh, yeah.
just couldn't.
No, I know guys like that. Yeah.
And but I remember one game he had like 5 sacks.
Yeah.
It's just like when he was healthy, it's like, geez, like I remember watching the game because of course I was on the sideline at the time, and I was like, what are you gonna do against this guy?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
good luck, boys.
Well, talking about that, so you played at Kentucky and Arizona, right?
I played at the Air Force Academy,
Okay.
and then I went to Arizona. I coached at Kentucky.
So where did you grow up?
Just out in Northwest Chicago.
Okay.
Area.
So playing, I mean, you're my height.
Yeah, 5'10".
You know,
Yeah.
how does a guy your size and shape and everything make it to Division I football? I mean, is it? I've heard your story, but I think people would be interested in.
Well, there's a couple things that happened along the way. At a young age, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't want to play pro football. I just wanted to play big time college football, and I loved it. Like the pageantry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different animal.
Yeah, and there was just something about it. I remember Saturdays, like Friday nights we'd have our football games in high school, and then Saturdays, I lived fairly close to Northwestern University, 20, 30 minutes away, which depending on traffic could be 2 hours in Chicago.
Yeah.
But this is when Northwestern was horrid.
Yeah.
So, if Ohio State or Indiana, who had some great running backs, would come, or Michigan State, we used to go to the games, my dad and I, because they were like $6 to get in, because there's no one there.
Yeah, right.
And I got to see the Big Ten back then. I mean, everyone, even Bob Christian was Northwestern's running back. He had like 1,600, 1,700 yards or whatever. The guy was a fucking stud, and they were like they'd win one game. They'd always beat Northern Illinois. That was the big game. And so I got to see all that, and it was just amazing to me. And my dad never doubted me for a second. He's like, if you want to do it, then you better work, because I knew very early on it was not going to happen.
Yeah.
Due to my talent.
You weren't one of those guys that are like the pulling guard.
No, not at all. I mean, I had more athletic talent than the average kid.
Right.
But nowhere near what it was going to be like when I got to Arizona. But I part of it was just this massive, unwavering belief in myself. And I saw an Eddie Hall documentary, and when Eddie Hall first started out, he was horrid.
Yeah.
He's like getting like last place in a lot of like local events, and they asked him, how did you survive like the first 7 years? He's like, I just fucking lied to myself, and I just did. I understand that, because I'm like, no, I'll be there. So I'll try and sum this up. When you walk on, it's a war of attrition. Mm-hmm. It's just who can outlast the next guy. It's not how good you are. It's, are you willing to stick with the shit that gets shoveled on you, not on a daily basis, on a minute-by-minute basis. And I've told this story before, but to make a long story short, I just outlasted everyone. Mm-hmm. And by the time I had 2 senior years, because I got a medical red shirt. I had a petition to NCAA, got rejected 2 or 3 times, and they finally let it go. But so by the time, I guess you would call then I had Graves' disease, so that's a thyroid condition. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't gain weight, and I couldn't figure it out, and then they did all these tests and whatever. So I finally recovered from that. So that took another year, 2 years. And there was like a reason why, like even from maybe junior year, senior year, all the way up until I was 20 years old, I didn't gain a pound.
Yeah.
And I was like, and of course, as for me, I'm like, I'm just not working hard.
Right.
I gotta, and then my strength started dipping down a little bit, and a lot actually. And I'm just gonna tell this story because I love it so much.
Go ahead.
So once they diagnosed me, they put me on medication, and then eventually they took it out. They use a radiation thing, and then you're done. I have to take medication the rest of my life because they just take it out, and now you have to supplement.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when I got diagnosed in mid-August during camp, and then I went home for Thanksgiving. So that's August, September, 3.5 months. I went from 180 to 240. And anything I ate went right to my muscles. It was like, you fucking asshole, all this time I've been, and I remember like my bench going up, and my squat going up 10 or 20 pounds from Monday to Thursday.
Right.
And it was just, and I was squatting
Just
600
struggling
for reps.
yeah.
Now I'm just like, every rep that I had ever done was like, here we
Right.
go, here
Yep.
we go. And my doctor's like, are you taking steroids? I'm like, no, dude, I'm just eating and just training. And I got off the plane. This was before 9/11, so if you wanted to pick someone up at the airport,
Right.
you could go
Right to the gate. Yeah.
And so my sister picked me up, and she walked right by me. And I was like, Laura. She was like, oh my gosh.
Right.
That was 240 fucking pounds. The neck was out to here. And so that was a big turning point in my life. Was now I had a little more, because you can't really play fullback in the Pac-10
Sure,
at
yeah.
200 or 100.
Yeah.
I was 180 pounds. It ain't gonna happen. And then by that point, I finally got on some special teams, and the story is every Thursday during the season we'd have what we call a scout bowl. So all the guys that play scout team play in a controlled scrimmage, while the rest, they just do special teams and
Sure.
walk through. And that day, usually I'd play a little bit, but we had all these other kids who were all American this and blue chip this and none of them wanted to play. They left practice early. And Coach Babers, who's now at Syracuse, he's like, Jimmy, get in there. And I was like, oh, fuck. So I was tailback.
Yeah.
And so I carried because you can't really pass the ball very well in scout bowl because you never have any, the quarterbacks and receivers don't really get any real-time
Right.
passing. So
There's
it's
no
just like, listen,
continuity.
everyone knows how to zone block. We
Yep.
all know. So I carried the ball like a million times. At least it felt like it. I was definitely not in tailback shape by that time. And I had cut my head open because I always lead with, God forbid, I led with my head all the time. And so I was bleeding all over. I looked like I was a KISS member.
Right.
And so it looked great. I ran balls off, and Coach Tomey said, you will play for the rest of the time that you're here.
Love it.
So he got me on, they put me on special teams. And then there was the next year was when as a team, we were number 4 in the nation. That's how we ended up. But during the spring ball prior to that year, there was a moment in my life where I said, you know what, fuck it. I don't care how much I fuck up. I'm just gonna play my balls off, and because you get caught up, like, man, I want to get, because it's a different level there when coaches yell at you. It's not like, man, you got to do better. It's you fucking dumb piece of shit. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let it go. And I had sequestered myself away from all the parties and stuff like that, which, I still enjoyed occasionally. But I just like, you know what, fuck, I just trained and ate and trained and ate. And I was in the best shape of my life. And all of a sudden, I'm starting. And, now we ran a one-back set, so I was in short yard and stuff. But I was still for what I did, I was the starter. So, and I just did my job very well. And the next year I got another year of eligibility. I still played quite a bit. And, but all it was, by the time I got there, I just knew how to do, like the other guy could probably get there quicker, but he might go to the left instead of the right.
Yep.
I knew where I was going.
You knew your
the game was
job
slowed down so much for me. I remember my first time ever playing, it was like, oh my God, how does anyone even do anything? Because it's like a bomb goes off.
Sure.
And like the hole's there. And now by the time I was senior, I was like,
It's like leveling up from junior high to high school.
Yeah, when I first played varsity as a sophomore, I remember my first time carrying the ball, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're like, big deal.
They took my kid this year from 8th grade football to Friday Night Lights.
Oh.
Starting middle linebacker.
Yeah, it's like crazy.
He's going to throw him right in there? Yeah, that's it.
Did the play starter?
But he adapted. But but that's, I think that's something we're missing, where everybody wants to, send their kid to some super sports facility to learn how to do your job, work really hard, and put up with more garbage than the guy next to you is willing to put up with.
And I knew it was one of those things where, and at the end, when I graduated, it was maybe me and 3 other guys that walked on.
Yeah,
were still there.
Yeah.
And I think all 3 of them had scholarships at that time.
Yeah.
So it was just a matter of whether or not you're willing to stick with it. And I don't bemoan anyone who didn't want to stick with it, because, man, it sucks. And but it was what I wanted to do more than anything.
Well, you hear that from guys going through buds.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? They say they got Olympic athletes and they could do all these pull-ups and stuff, but they didn't want it as bad as
that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I always when I see a lot of strength coaches want to do the Navy SEAL bullshit.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, dude, the Navy SEAls don't even do that. Like, you
That's
understand
like a few weeks out of their
it's
lives.
5 days.
Right.
And they hate it.
Yeah.
And then they all have stress fractures.
Yeah.
It's probably not a good idea to put your athletes through that.
I've got a buddy who, matter of fact, he's going to be on the podcast tomorrow. He was on SEAL Team 10. He went in, he was 6'3", he was 200 pounds. He had never swam in the ocean before.
Oh, fuck.
And he said he wasn't a very good runner. He said, but he wanted to be a SEAL really bad.
Just fucking, I'll be all right.
Yeah, and he made it.
Yeah, and so I think you have to have that unwavering belief and just willing to do, I hear stories from those guys, and I did a consult with some of them, and I asked him one time, like, how do you guys generally train? Just curious. Like, yeah, we train like football players.
Yeah, right? I mean,
obviously not for buds.
Yeah.
But everything. He's like, yeah, we just do sprints and we try and get strong. And I'm like, all right, so we're all right.
Yeah. It only makes sense. You're going into combat just like, your jiu-jitsu fighters or anybody else.
Yeah. So, but it was a time in my life that I'll never forget. And when I ended it, I always remember Arizona State was always our last game. And my final year, we didn't go to a bowl game. I remember walking out of that stadium being like, holy shit, what am I going to do with my life?
Yeah.
Because everything I've done for 12 years was everything. Like the vacations, like any kind of date, any kind of thing was always revolved around football. And I was like, man, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do now. And it was tough because I kind of was like, man, did I waste all my life? And obviously looking back now, I didn't.
Set you up perfectly for what you're doing.
It did. Yeah, it did me very well, and it served its purpose. And I look, but obviously, it is what you make of it too. I could have been just a disgruntled football player, like I see a lot of people still be. And but yeah, it did me well. So.
And you got some street cred now with these kids.
Yeah.
Although I remember you saying that your Instagram followers is more street cred.
That was more. I get that's the most off question I get is how do you get kids to buy in? And so I've been trying to answer this question in a quick way, and my initial thing was if you want kids to buy in, you have to be selling something that they want to buy.
Right. And
that could be one, you got to have some kind of history that the kids will listen to. Whether or not that makes you a good coach or not, no. Just because you did this and that doesn't make you a good coach. But the kids you have to have something in your past that kids are like, all right, I'll fucking give it a shot. And then obviously, once you have that, you better be producing something. And but that's the one thing is having the training background and having the football background at least gets your foot in the door.
The other thing is I talked to I did a speech at Ashland University a couple months back, and you got to look like you train.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to listen to a big fat guy.
That doesn't mean that the big strong guy knows everything.
Right.
It's just like you got. It's important for optics.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not going to listen to a poor dude tell me about investing. I mean, he might know something.
Right.
But don't be mad when no one believes you.
Yeah.
I
think we lose a lot of that now. Like when we were kids in the 80s, we had Arnold and we had, like the Road Warriors and Hulk Hogan and all these guys. And
Tony Mandridge,
right. And we just don't have those, you got The Rock now, but, other than that, you've got all these guys. You don't have any of those larger-than-life meatheads to look up to.
And, there's guys on the internet now, so it's a little bit different.
It's weird.
It's a different era, and I don't really peruse Instagram or Facebook much, so I don't really. Someone asked me one time what I thought about someone. I'm like, I've never met him. Like, I don't know. I didn't realize they thought about like they're lifting. I'm like, oh, is that how you judge a person?
Yeah. There's so much nonsense out there that it was refreshing. So when we went to Swiss, and I've said it on the podcast probably 10 times that your talk was my favorite of the whole thing.
Well, thank you.
It was funny to me because you had guys in the audience that raise their hand, well, aren't you doing this exercise? And you're like, no, fuck that. they can't squat on 2 legs. Why would I have them squat on one leg?
That drives me bananas.
Yeah, I think I applauded when you said that. I was just like, oh my God, it's the best.
Do you do one, like I always want, like, do you guys do one leg stuff? Yeah, we run.
Yeah.
And we push a prowler. That's separate legs, right? We run the stadium steps.
It's just, there's so much nonsense.
It was a weird, when I first came here, I knew it would work. I just didn't, it was a weird thing because you get flooded with everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I know how to do. I don't know how to do everything else. So that's one of my coaching axiom number 1 in my coaching philosophy is just coach what you know. So I'm like, this is what I know. I know it can work. Is it the best? I don't know.
Right.
But this is what I know. And so that first year after I had taken over the strength training, that first game was the most nervous I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I get nervous before every game. I think we're going to, like, we've won games 75-0. It's like 63-0 at half. And before the game, I was like, oh, I don't know about this one. And then it's, but that first game, I remember warming up the kids. And, when you're on the field during the, you're playing music over the intercom, you got to be loud. And every time let's go, next group up. And I'm like, bro. And I was like, if this doesn't work, all these kids and all the work and time that they put in, because I will put up how much time our kids put in versus anyone else, because it's unbelievable. So I was like, man, they're not going to believe in anything that we're doing here, and all of a sudden we just come out and just beat the living shit out of a team we lost the year before.
Right.
I mean, and this is before we even knew who we were.
Right.
After about halfway through the season, and it's like, all right, now we know who we are. And then the next year, it was like, oh, we know. And now every year, everyone's like, well, you're gonna play London this year. Get out the body bags. I tell the kids all the time, I don't care if we win or lose. I want everyone to know that they played you.
I remember you saying that at the clinic.
It's the most important thing.
I went to my son's head football coach when I found out he was gonna play varsity, and I went in and I said, look, I don't have time to do this. I said, but I'll run your weight room for free.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very basic, and because his team's.
Yeah.
So I said, look, I'll do it all for free, and I'll be your get back coach and warm them up on Friday nights. They weren't interested. I said, all right. I said, check out London's program though. You might want to maybe learn something from them, And my son just goes in this weight room, and he's one of these kids who's just gonna, if you tell him to run through a wall, he will. He goes all the time, but. It's like, man, it's tough.
And I have my oldest son plays quarterback. He lives in Texas.
Yeah.
And Texas football is holy shit.
Yeah.
And there's that weird thing. I'm a dad or I'm a coach, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be a dad. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut. If he asks a question, I'll answer him honestly. But I don't really know what they do there. And I don't want to. I know.
I have someone else coaching my kid in track and field, and I was a pro thrower. So it's
So
you coach him. I don't want to be that dad.
And so I made that early on. I'm like, I'm just going to be his dad, and I'll support him. And if he wants to ask a question, I'll help him out. But I told him that too. I'm like, listen, man, like, and I'm always surprised that his coaches don't ask me, like, you want to, even though I live a million, like, I'll help you out.
I know.
Do what I can. I'm like, I'm a part of it is pride. I understand that. And that's the one thing, the head coach here, his background is in strength and conditioning.
That's a lot of putting your ego aside.
So I give him a shit ton of credit. He's like, and I will never forget, because when maybe the first 6 weeks, he was like, well, we should probably do some of this. I'm like, all right, I was like, all right, it's your fucking team, dude, whatever.
Yep.
And and then I came in to training, and he was sitting on one of these benches with his head in his hand, and I was like, dude, you all right? He said, I just went through our workout. I will never question anything to do with it. Because we generally do 3 lifts a day.
Yeah.
We do 3 things, 3 or 4 things. He's like, it's so fucking hard.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Now you see, like, these kids are in better shape than we give them credit for once they get through the flow of stuff. But anyway, he's now, obviously he's a big believer and stuff. But I give him credit because a head football coach, I would never want to be a head football coach.
Right.
The amount of shit that these guys put up with. And it's not even the X's and O's. X's and O's, that's your fucking job,
Yeah.
and that's what you're
Yep.
good at, that's what you love. It's everything else.
Dealing with parents and
Oh,
administration.
Lord, it's always a battle. And I thought, well, it's London, it's a small school, holy shit. I couldn't even imagine at a big school
Yeah.
the amount of crap that you must get.
I coached for 15 years track and field, and now I've got a friend who now coaches track and field, and when he has to go, and kids and parents texting him,
Yeah.
it's like, what? That would never have
Yeah.
happened. No one was calling me when I was coaching.
Someone asked me for my phone number. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't think so.
First of all, I never answer my phone.
Right.
I had like 15 unanswered texts. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's just, I always, if they get hold of my wife, that's how all my friends
Yep.
just text her. Like,
Yep.
hey, can you ask Jim if I'm like, all right.
So we've got some common friends, some mutual friends. So Mark Burrows, Chicken Hawk.
Yeah.
He was the one who was like, just get a hold of Juliet. She'll take care of all this stuff for you. And then the Vincent brothers told me the
Matt,
same thing. Yeah. So
Matt goes through her because I just, and it's not, maybe it's partly conscious, but I just, when I think of great men, like they didn't answer text all the time.
Sure.
They're out doing it. I was like, you know what? Every time I spend on the phone or on the computers, now obviously I have to do work on there. It's just taken away from like hanging out with my kid or hanging out with my wife, or even just. And people say, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'd rather watch fucking TV.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
rather
it was
watch a good
funny.
TV show.
When we met at Swiss, I don't think we talked about strength and conditioning. We were in the bar. We didn't talk about strength and conditioning at all. We were talking about like Frasier.
Yeah. Oh, I love Frasier. They just took that off Netflix too.
Oh, is it off now?
Yeah. And that's one of the few shows. First of all, it's done like a play.
Yeah.
And
there's the acts and everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a tired scheme. Like,
Yeah.
It's been done a million times. They just do it better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And it was wonderfully
done. The guy who plays Niles is just.
Well, those two, and then the dad are terrific. And then obviously with you have the other bit players that do a tremendous job. But those three.
The guy who played Donnie.
Oh yeah.
He used to come. We were throwing Highland games up in Canada. He was from Ontario.
No kidding.
So he'd come out and sit behind the hammer cage.
What?
He
doesn't look like he's ever done anything.
I don't think he has. He'd come here with his mother and just hang out, But first time he showed up, I'm like, that's Donnie from Frasier. So yeah.
Hey, sorry about Daphne doing the wrong brother. He's like, huh?
And we talked about books, and I heard you on a podcast a while back, and you made a book recommendation for the Fermata.
Oh yeah.
And after reading the Fermata, I have to say, what the fuck is wrong with you?
One of the greatest. This Nicholson Baker wrote that, and he is a wordsmith, man.
It was
He's
a great
got more
book.
names for the vagina and the penis. I laughed so hard. My uncle recommended that to me when I was in high school. He's like, "Don't tell your mother." My mom's brother. He's like, "Don't tell your mother."
It was the most demented book.
Yeah, and it was just tremendous. He's just fucked up, and it was fun. And but I remember he slid the paper over to me, folded.
Yeah.
It's like we're in the CIA or something, Shh, burn this.
How the hell do you get it when you're in high school? Amazon's not around yet.
No, you just go to Nicholson Baker had a couple books out at that time. He had the Vox, and he had another one. I just went to a bookstore and bought it.
Yeah.
I used to love going to bookstores, and when I went to college, Arizona, they had a bunch of his books there too.
And you were an English major, weren't you?
Yeah, English and a creative writing minor. I was like 2 credits away from a double major, I think.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I had gone to one strength and conditioning class or whatever they called it back then. It's not strength and conditioning, but I can't remember what the. And
Like kinesiology or something. That's what they
but
called it when I was in school.
It wasn't kinesiology, but it was something like science of sports training, or I don't remember what it was, but it was a major. And I remember that the class I took was taught by the most ridiculous person I've ever seen. I'm like, what the
Right.
I had no idea, because I thought, hell, people are going to be in this training. We're going to discuss planning and programming, understanding different things. And I was like, man, this has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
And I was so put off. I mean, it was very disappointing. Like, you know, when you meet like
Yeah, yeah.
you meet someone, you meet your mentor or your idol or something. You're like, oh, it was horrid to me. And I remember sitting down. And I was like, listen, this is all I'm going to have 4 years, or actually 5 years of college. And I'm like, am I going to do something I like, or am I going to do something that I think that I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do whatever. I loved reading ever since I was a kid. I loved writing. I was like, I'm just going to do what I love to do, and I'll make things work.
What are you reading now?
I still always I have James Ellroy books I haven't read because he's my favorite author, so I keep them.
Is that just mysteries?
It's like noir fiction.
Okay.
If you he writes obviously prose, but every line's fucking poetry.
Mm-hmm.
It is if there was a movie years ago that came out called L.A. Confidential.
Yeah.
He was the guy who wrote the book L.A. Confidential.
Okay.
Now that's a very condensed version of what actually happens in the book, but he is like the seedy underbelly of 40s and 50s and 60s L.A., where the cops were part good, part bad.
Right.
Everyone was just fucking nasty. And the way he tells his stories, man, you just get sucked in. And I love that stuff. And when it's growing up, I had, all the way up until now, I probably read the Sherlock Holmes canon probably 7 or 8 times all the way through. I loved mysteries and stuff. So I loved Jack Reacher.
Oh yeah.
It's fun. It's easy. I don't like to read, because I had done all that stuff for years in college. I want to read and enjoy it. I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Because this is 99% of my thought process for, how do I put this? My problem solving happens late at night when I'm sitting around because I stay up later than everyone else, and I just watch TV and I have a notebook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fuck, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I just sit back down. And my wife's like, what time did you go to bed? I'm like, 2:30. She's like, what's going on? I was like, oh man, I think I figured this thing out.
Yeah.
And so I just watch mind-numbing stuff, and that's when I start doing my greatest thinking. So everything else kind of has to be. It's like I wear the same clothes every day. I have 5 of the same pairs of pants.
Yeah.
I have about 30 of the same plain black T-shirts.
Yeah.
I got that from Einstein. He ate the same breakfast, wore the same clothes.
There was just a guy on Rogan talking about that. He was a guy working for MIT. He wears a black suit with a black tie, or he wears a black T-shirt and jeans. It's the same thing.
And I've been doing that for probably 15 years. And
I do the same thing, but just because I have no style sense.
Yeah. But the problem is they stopped selling my favorite. Like I went hiking today, so I'm wearing my boots, but. My Adidas shoes, they stopped selling them. So I'm looking around the store like fucking confused. I have nothing here I like.
My shoes are here.
And I can't order anything off Amazon because I don't know the size.
Yeah, right.
So my wife's like, I have to go to a store. And I went into a store, this was years ago, and looking for those shoes.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, we don't, because I just black and white shoes. That's all they are.
Yeah.
Mostly black with white trim. And he's like, we don't have any in your size, but I got you these. Because he asked me, I'm like, listen, I just want my plain black Adidas. And they came out like in African colors.
Right.
I was like, dude, I said,
perfect. It's perfect for
what
you.
fucking world do you think and it was like one of those, I should have fucking kept that to myself. What world am I going to wear this shit? And he just looked at me, I'm like, oh man, fuck. After I just told you.
Right. I want black and white.
That's it.
Have you ever read Hyacin, Carl Hyacin?
Yeah, I got a shit ton of his books.
I love Hyacin.
And there's oh God, who's the other guy?
Randy Wayne White?
No.
He was a good one.
He did Gone Baby Gone.
Oh, I read that. It's
he's done a shit ton of books, and his books he's done Mystic River. I can't think of his name.
I've read Gone Baby Gone. I don't know who wrote it.
But his whole canon is awesome.
Yeah.
He's got in Gone Baby Gone. There's a female and male detective team, and he's got about 5 or 6 of those books with those characters. And then he's got like Mystic River, and he's got there was a 2 or 3 part book series. This one wasn't set in Boston, though. I think it was set in Miami.
So you're I will not read strength and conditioning.
No,
anything. I can't do it.
I don't. I have tons of those books.
Yeah.
And but everything I learn in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll talk to some of my buddies, like, hey, what are you doing with this? And I'm like, all right. And then it has to make sense in my head.
Yeah.
Like my best friend in the world, Matt Rhodes, he does a version of what we do, but the way it makes sense to him doesn't make any sense. I don't even bother to learn it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it makes sense to you. It makes sense to me while I'm doing this. And, but he's had tremendous success too. So I bounce ideas off him. And most of the stuff, like, it's like a lab in here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, all right, let's.
Got a lot of guinea pigs to work with.
And boy, I fucked up a lot, man.
Sure, yeah. I've got a gym. I've got 100 people in the gym, and it's just like,
hey, you
we're going to try
something?
this, you know? And I got 100 case studies to deal with.
Yep. And so I think people think it's like for a lot of coaches, it's just 100% all the time. But I can't tell you how many times I fucked this up.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm always willing to try new stuff. I always think of it like a big slab of marble. And training to me isn't what you add to it, it's what you can take off. So when we first started training here, the actual program that we used started 2 years prior, and I was like, and it had all these things. And then after a while, I just started. I'm like, wow, we don't really need that.
Yeah.
And then you chip this off, and so it's more about what I can eliminate.
Yeah.
And now we've eliminated a shit ton of stuff, and it's gotten to the point where when we we trained during the season, and I always tell people, do you want to be strongest in July or do you want to be strongest in October? And when I'm like, well, October, right? Because that's when you need to be strong.
Playoffs and.
So everything we do in the off season is geared so we're going to be strong in the in season. So by the time I think 6 weeks in or so, I think we had broken 130. I'd have to look 125, 135 records in the squat and the trap bar. And I don't know how many kids because some of the kids were still freshmen, we're still teaching this stuff, but the kids that were on this, you know, and I was like, all we did was bench and then do 2 assistance exercises for the upper body, and then we trap barred and did 2 assistance exercises for the upper body.
Yeah.
And then we had 2 yoga days, which is stretching, but we just call it yoga.
Yeah.
So we put on some fucking
music. Right.
And then we have, on the day after the game, we do a very easy circuit, body weight squats. We do shoulder, like, you know, on the bench where you lay down. And then we do, I think, presses with the barbell, with an empty barbell. You just go around in a circuit, and so the kids are. So, but we only have 2 very hard days, and we broke that many records.
Yeah.
And I was like, how much shit do we really need to do then?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, now. And now, granted, they're also doing a lot of other work here and there, but even then, I was like, everyone's bench went up.
Right.
And I was like, how the fuck is that? Now, that's a credit to the coach too, because when the kids are down, we're like, listen.
Yeah.
We got to be smart about practice this week, because everyone on our team plays both ways for the most part. We don't, you know, one guy gets hurt.
Yep. It's huge.
It's 2 positions.
Yeah.
And so, but that really opened my eyes. I'm like, man, are we even doing too much in the off season? Now, that could be debated, you know, a lot of different ways. In my head, trust me, I've lost more sleep on this stuff than I care to admit on fucking high school athletes.
Well, yeah, but
it's the only thing I know what to do.
And you care about them.
Yeah.
And you're not just building athletes, you're building men.
Yeah.
And it's a big responsibility.
And, you know, when you come from a small town, this small town loves their football.
Yeah.
And you see how the town gets behind and it's not one of those Friday Night Light kind of things where it's not ridiculous, like the kids get away with murder here. It's nothing like that. But I think we've done a good job of doing what I envisioned I've always wanted to do, as far as building a community with not the community, but within the.
Yeah, you built a team.
Yeah, because like I always talk, and my wife and I, we always like to pretend like we're like a motorcycle club. Me, her, and our kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and then of course my parents get patched in, kind of.
Sure, right.
But they live far away.
Get patched over.
Yeah. And that's the kind of what I wanted to develop here, and you know the head coach understands that too. You know, you have to stay together, and even if you don't like the guys, you know, at least when you're here and on the field, you know, you work together. And I'll tell you what, a couple years ago we had a running back here. Holy fuck, best running back I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And we had 2 years prior to me being here, and then with him, we had 3,000 yard rushers. And I was like, how? I've always wanted to see like.
Okay, but people don't know this either. Is that's all you guys do is
we
run, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and we run and so the last 2 years now, we've had the same offensive coordinator because it's hard to keep coaches here.
Yeah.
He's the best offensive coach I've ever seen, and we run the old wing tee.
Yeah.
And not only is he just a very good. Like, we get along very well, and he's just one of those guys, but tremendous coach.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen a wing tee run, it is fucking confusing for the defense because things are moving this way, and you never know who's got the ball. And 2 years ago, our quarterback got hurt, so we didn't have a quarterback. We had no other quarterbacks. We just moved the wide receiver. It's like, here we go, boy. And he'd never taken a snap. He's like, fuck me. Like, the balls? Really? Holy shit. And so the first game that he was playing, he had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to learn the position.
Yeah.
Because the kid had gotten hurt during the game. So during the game, we just snapped it to the running back. Like,
right.
Here you go, boys.
Yeah.
You know how to catch a snap? And he's like, and then we just. So I remember during the game, the new quarterback, Noah, fumbled the snap, and he was supposed to hand the ball off to our stud running back, and the stud running back just ran through the hole. He's like, and you could hear him, come on! He was like 13 yards. I'm like, Jesus. Imagine that's how, we were so good.
Yeah.
I think we passed the ball maybe once. It was like a halfback pass.
Right.
And our 2 minute, we didn't have a 2 minute offense because we'd score all the time.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? We had two kids. One kid rushed for like 1,200 yards. The other kid rushed for 2,500.
But it fits along with your system.
Yeah, because
basic, hard nose.
And all you need on the line, you need kids willing to hit and who can move.
Yeah.
And I always tell the kids, I don't care how much you weigh. I don't care if I'd rather have a 180-pound motherfucker who can move than a 300-pound slob. And he's like, the 300-pound slob may lean on you for 2 plays, but after that, like, you get a kid we had a kid, defensive tackle last year, maybe 190, deadlifted 405 for 5, hit a neck, like he's currently he's a wrestler, and he just fucking trashes people.
Whole different kind of people, those kids.
And he would, like, good luck.
Yeah.
Like, you might get to him, but if he's slanting with that speed, strength, and his balance. So we have another kid two kids who are wrestlers. One of them, both of them are just phenomenal athletes, and one of the kids last year was our running back, and he has the best balance I've ever seen in my entire life of anyone. And he's already, I think, as a freshman, he placed in the state meet as a wrestler.
Yeah.
And he's got one of those. You don't coach him because he's just real quiet and just kind of. And whatever you ask him to do, and I've seen him he's only 160 pounds. He benched 225 for 7 as a sophomore.
Yeah.
But he's one of those kids, even the head coach, like Kyle, is like, I don't even know if I should say anything.
Right, just let him go.
Shit
right. It's not good to be scared of your athletes. As long as he's on our side, though, I guess it's okay.
Yeah, but you watch him get hit, and the normal person would have tripped or fallen down. He just kind of scurries through. He's not terribly fast like our other kids have been, but he tore his ACL, and the doctor was like, dude, you tore this a long time ago. He's just one of those kids like, man, my knee hurts.
Yeah.
I guess that's part of sports. So, but yeah, it's just, so that offense just really, as long as everyone does their job, it's basically unbeatable.
Yeah.
And you don't need super talent. Obviously, it helps if you've got an explosive running back. But if you're getting 6 yards of play, and that turns into 8 yards of play, and at the end of the game, it's 15, 20 yards of play. And we had a kid last year who took over the running back duties, and his quads were, every quarter his quads grew like an inch.
Right.
So by the end of the game, no one wanted any part of him.
Right.
He was just running. He was 5'8", maybe 205.
Knees coming up in your chin when you're trying to tackle him.
And he's angry. I mean, just angry motherfucker.
Yeah.
So, and he has very good vision, stuff like that. So it's been when we finally started doing what we were supposed to do, that's when we took off. It's like, this is who we are. Let's play defense. I always tell the coach, fucking let them beat us in the pass.
Right.
Fuck it. We'll stop the run. We'll beat the shit out of your quarterback. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know, like, you got 5 wide. Fuck, we'll leave one guy uncovered. We're going to take 2 off the edge. See if you get that ball off, buddy.
See how fast you can throw.
You know? And you can only do that so many times.
Yeah.
And so when we've played a couple, we've gone to the playoffs and stuff, and most of those teams run the spread. So when they prepare for us, they hadn't seen this kind of offense in a year. They're not used to that kind of physicality.
Going back to like old West Point videos.
We got yelled at by what we were beating the shit out of some city team, and they run the spread. They should have beat us by 30. We ended up beating the crap out of them, but they were screaming at us, "You don't even play real football." It's like, whoa,
wait a minute.
You're the ones that play basketball on grass, buddy.
Yeah, we're down in the dirt here.
Yeah. So, but if our kids are in fairly good shape, and even our conditioning, I always tell Kyle, I'd rather have the kids come in okay shape.
Yeah.
Because they run year round.
Yeah.
Than front load the conditioning, so by the time they go to 2-a-days, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, we even cut out 2-a-days. We only practice 1 day.
Really?
Yeah. Because we got 30 kids out there.
Yeah.
And that counts the freshmen. 30,
Right.
40, maybe 50 if we have a kick-ass turnout for freshman year.
I wish.
But what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
Well, the old days when I was playing,
but it takes confidence to do that.
Yeah. Well, me and Kyle sat right here during tennis, like, dude, I'm telling you, let's fucking try. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know either, man.
Right.
What can go wrong? And
If we screw it up, we won't do it next year.
Yeah. Well, the best thing that happened to us is we had a shit year.
Yeah.
If we would have went 5-5, that's always one of those. Well, we could have won this game, and maybe that game. So having a bad year was the best thing that happened to us, because it was I always call it the George Costanza moment.
Right.
Where he just does the opposite of everything.
Yes.
Ends up getting a great job, getting a hot girlfriend.
I live with my parents, and I'm unemployed.
Oh my God.
Hi, how are you doing?
I think that was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, it was a horrible time, especially for the kids and stuff. But once we, the reason why there was 2-a-days, or when I was going through school, probably we did 3-a-days, was there was no off-season training program.
Right.
We got to get you in shape.
Yeah.
Like, the kids are already in great shape.
Yeah.
They're already, we do, the kids spend maybe 2 times a week going over the offense, defense. They do walkthroughs and stuff. So by the time the season rolls around, they're like, I know 90% of our plays, obviously there's going to be little wrinkles thrown in here and there. So, like, we already know what we're doing. It's more about a timing thing, or maybe obviously battling for positions and stuff like that. But even I think we put the pads on just the minimal times too.
Yeah.
Because we can't afford kids getting hurt here. And the deal is, if you show up on Friday and beat the fuck out of someone, you don't have to wear pads. If you show up, play like a bunch of pussies, then we're going to have to do something on practice. The kids know, like,
right.
If you want to have a good, solid week of practice where you're not banging the shit out of everyone, then just show up on Friday and beat the crap out of people.
Do your job.
And we only had one real letdown last year as far as kind of the physicality and stuff. And we lost that. It was our first loss of the year, and that was a real eye-opener. But that's one of those things. Like, momentum's a real thing in football.
Yep.
Whether it's Pee Wee or the NFL.
Yep.
Like, the ball just fucking doesn't go your way, and you see it. And it's funny when you see it happen to pros. You're like, how can that happen? But it's real. And it was one of those games that 3 kids are a little off, and that affects this. It's like a cancer. And so, but the thing that we're doing here is, I think people get wrapped up a little bit. You want to have the kids explosive and all this stuff, and most of it is just getting the kids confidence.
Yeah.
Like, holy cow, I just did this. I used to do this, and now I can. Now I know I can battle this kid, and that goes a long way. They always talk about building a tough culture, and then of course they bring in the Navy SEAL stuff.
Right.
And in this day and age, I don't think that's how it's done. I think it's done by building the kids up through testing that they know they can.
Right.
Still challenging, but they can do. And once you kind of embrace, like, understand, like, it's not like it used to be.
Yeah.
And I don't even know back in the day if it actually worked.
It worked for me because I think I was one of the few people who was lifting weights in 1990.
Yeah. No, but I'm
as far as
saying, like, I
kids.
don't know if putting your guys through Hell Week,
Yeah.
if that does that really. I don't know. I don't know if it really, in this day and age, is really needed, and I don't even know if it really worked. I think there's better ways of going about by building a team. And
I think the basics. So I read 531 after, and it was probably similar to the way you came up with 531. Is I had been doing, when I was throwing, I did conjugate the whole time, and it worked well for me. But then when I was done throwing, I was like, I don't want to fucking put these bands on this bar. Maybe I can just squat normal and not pull this box out, and I'll be fine. And I was fine, and now it's like, I'm going to swing this kettlebell and do some dips, and I'm going to be great,
I'll be all right. Well, you get locked in that thing where if I don't do X, Y, and Z, then you start, as an athlete, everything is superstition. Right?
Sure,
I did it like that one time. And so my last 2 meets where I squatted 940 and then 1,000, I just let it all. I'm like, you know what? Whatever anyone wants to do on that day, I know kind of how I need the weights to feel, and I'll just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna get so rigid. And then once I left Westside and I started training like this, all of a sudden, like my deadlift skyrocketed, my bench went up. I lost like 40 pounds. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. Yeah. What was I doing? I could have spent a lot less
Your blood
time.
pressure's a little bit lower,
a lot lower. And but I don't have any regrets because everything kind of builds on itself, and I needed to go through a lot of that stuff. And I see that happen with young coaches and trainers. They need to go through that period where it's incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you're like, you know what? Even when you see it, I didn't realize how far away I was from the average person until I came here, and all of a sudden you got kids who don't know how to do a jumping jack. You're like, oh, fuck, dude, come on, really? Like, that's not, that.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
over the head.
Yeah. I always talk about, and I talked about this at that seminar I spoke at. For the first part of my career, I was a Judd Logan clone because I learned to coach track and weightlifting from Judd. So I was a Judd Logan clone, and then I got into conjugate, and I became a Louis clone. And then as I got older, I realized that everything freaking works.
Yep.
It all works. You just work hard on the shit that's going to get you out of bed and get you training.
Yep. And the number one coaching thing is coach what you know. And this is what I know.
Yeah.
And I think the kids can smell it if you're, laying on the bullshit a little bit. Not all of them, but most of them can. And, we believe in what we do. And the other thing I hated when I was a player was when coaches would be like, what are we doing for conditioning? Like, oh, you'll see. It's like,
oh, yeah, all right.
And I'm like, listen, I'm as honest as I can be. And the other good thing is when we run and do all that stuff, they know it's not going to be horrible.
And it's not punishment either.
No, and I said, listen, we're only the first day that I addressed the kids as the strength coach, I outlined what we're going to do. And I said, we're going to be here for no more than an hour, or if we run, probably an hour and 20 minutes by the time we walk out there.
Yeah.
And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't want to spend any more time here.
Right.
Because I don't like any of you. Like, I don't have anything in common with you.
Right. We're not going to hang out.
Yeah, I don't really, I'd rather just be home, to be honest with you. So we're going to be efficient. We're going to work, at just the stuff that we need to do. And it ended up, because that's how I think. So I think when I coach that way, it's more believable and it works in my head. So, but going back to what you said, like everything works. I had been doing all the same basic stuff for years, and I had spine surgery 5 years ago. I had my spine fused. And I had some repercussions. I could still squat and deadlift, but man, 2 days later, I'm still like, and I was like, what am I fucking doing? Like, I wake up to take a piss, I'm hunched over.
Yeah.
This is not a good look.
Yeah.
And
it's not sexy.
Yeah. Shuffling around, bent over. So I'm like, you know what? So I guess right before the new year, maybe in December, late December, I went over to the local gym. They have all these selectorized machines, and I signed up. And I was like, so I went through like about 2 weeks where I kind of understood what machines I could do and what kind of felt weird. And so I developed my own training program based on machines, and it's all written out and everything is cataloged just because that's how it works in my brain. And I'm in there training, and I can't believe how little effort is being shown.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, well, that's why no one gets any results.
Yep.
And I may, like, depending on what part of the training program I'm in, I'll be in there maybe 45 minutes, at 45 to 60 minutes, and I am done.
Yeah.
And I am working. Every set is done, with focus and like there's someone still doing hammer rows.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing over
Yeah.
there? I just did 8 things to the brink of
You're probably not texting in between sets.
No, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
I refuse to do anything like that when I'm, I learned that from Dick Tomey, my head coach. He said, wherever you are, just be there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so my wife knows, obviously she's not going to text me. She'd never do that. But when I'm there to train, and I'm there to, put as much effort, because I know when I go home, that's,
Yep.
and I try to be at home when I'm because I want to be with my kid. I want to be with my wife. I want to give them my attention. And
there was a time when a 1,000-pound squat was on your brain. Now it's you're training, but you've got family and you've got the kids here, and it's not as important.
Well,
it's important, but you're not training to do something insane like squat 1,000 pounds.
When I'm in there, that's all I'm thinking about is,
right.
I want to hit this PR. I track all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's been fun. I feel great now.
So you're training in a gym with people walking around.
Well, I've gone in at separate times to see how many the fewest people come in. So you can't go in the mornings because there's a lot of people there. But around 10:30, 11, there's like a couple old ladies in there.
Right.
And I'm like, fuck, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm in there. I put on my knee sleeves. And every workout starts with some kind of high rep, either leg press or hack squat.
Yeah.
And I do three sets with a minute rest in between. I can barely fucking move after that.
Right.
And then everything else is, it's a full body workout every day. But and I put headphones in because I just listen to whatever new music I get, and I talk myself through sets.
Right.
Except I don't know how loud I'm talking.
So you're the guy over there with the full beard and all the tattoos talking to himself while you're lifting.
What the fuck, dude? We got 2 more. Here we go. 1 and fucking 2. All right, now we got a set of 3, motherfucker. Here we go. And I'm like, I think I'm saying it low.
Were there people in the weight room when you first? Now there's just 2 old ladies who probably can't hear you. You probably had like a whole group in there that aren't coming come in there.
I made the mistake of going in at a different time, and there was all these people there who wanted to talk, and I was like, I wasn't rude to them, but I was like,
yeah,
I really don't want to talk right now.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't want to be a dick about it, but it's like I got headphones on for a reason, and I
made a rule at my gym that I get an hour. So I'm not going to coach. I'll coach you 24/7, 365. But for that hour, I'm in there lifting. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you about your diet plan for the day.
Is there anything? I get a lot of injury questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what to tell you.
I won't give any. I got a girl, Adrian Smith, who's a Poliquin coach and a body. I send him to her.
Yeah.
I'm not going to teach you how to rehab your injuries.
Yeah. That's as soon as a kid gets hurt, I said, did you go see Erica?
Yeah.
Because I don't know enough, and I don't want that liability, and that's her job, just like I don't want her doing my job.
Yeah, 100%.
So we got 2 kids now. I think we've had 4 now who've had knee injuries, not related to football, of course. That once they get the full go, we rehab them. And they go through the rehab stuff, but introduced them to weightlifting, it's been awesome. And but Erica just once they do all the little bullshit with we have an awesome medical staff in Columbus.
Yeah.
The Columbus Children's Hospital does a great job. Whatever you want to say about Ohio, but holy shit, Ohio State's hospital is unbelievable for sports and kids medicine and stuff. I mean, it is.
I've actually had a couple of those guys on the podcast. They're really knowledgeable dudes.
Dude, it's I've had nothing but good things with not just my interaction, but with the kids and stuff. So, but it's been fun because one of our knee rehab things on Fridays, I'll push the prowler with the kids. We'll walk.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy on the knees and it helps strengthen the legs. You don't get sore. Except the kids, last year when I did it, we did it twice a week, and the kid that I did it with knows never to go leave for the bathroom because I'll go put extra weight on. So he's like, don't ever leave him alone. Just hold it in or fist on your leg. Because he'll come back. He's like, ah. So during, we were still doing it, we did it all year, or, almost all year once he got, but during the playoff time, we had some extra coaches come in and help, and one of the extra coaches came in, and we pushed the prowler for an hour and a half. It's a long.
Jesus, yeah.
We just go around the field, and I go 20 yards, he goes 20 yards. We just walk.
Yeah.
And one of the coaches told the head coach, like, what's going on? I'm like, this is fucking crazy. Like, you ever been there? And he's like, yeah, that's just what we do here. He's like, wow.
That's how it's done.
So, but it's fun for me because I don't want to just sit there.
Yeah.
So at least it gives the kids. We laugh about how miserable it is sometimes because if it's hot outside, fuck me, that probably on the field is.
But
so
it's a
hot.
way of getting buy-in too. Again, here I am doing it.
Yeah. I always tell listen, because I try most of the shit out on these kids. The things that we do in here. So I'm like, listen, I did this exact workout in 22 minutes, so I know we can get through it. So
I do beta testing for my people a lot of times where I'll hit a workout.
Yeah, and that's like I did. One of the reasons why I did some of the machine stuff was to see some of the old Nebraska metabolic circuits that they did. I was wanting to see. Now they used free weights and machines and stuff. I was like, I wanted to see how that worked, and I was not. You need more help in the weight room to do what they did. But that was one of my testing things. Was when I went over to the regular gym, I wanted to see how it could work. And I was like,
Boyd Epley stuff.
Holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
I'll never. One of the greatest times of my life. My wife loves football now, but when she and I first met, she's like, I don't know, like, is that brown thing? So, she now loves football, and she doesn't understand it completely, but enough to get by. But I put on early on, probably a year in a relationship, I put on an old Nebraska game from the '95 Nebraska. It was on whatever.
ESPN Classic or something like that.
And she's like, who's this? I'm like, it's Nebraska versus whoever. She's like, my God, they're so lean. Who are these guys? And it was like I was like, wow, there's someone who has no knowledge. It was like 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. And she's like, all the guys are fucking, there's no belly on them. They all look lean. And so I started doing a ton of research on Boyd Epley because I was a huge Nebraska fan when I was a kid. Huge. And about what they did, and I listened to some of his anything I could find, and his big thing was, he said to a big group of strength coaches, he said, what's your number one goal? And he's like, I'm not going to pick on anyone,
right?
But for a power athlete, your number one goal is to put muscle on them, because everything you do is a muscular contraction on the field or on the court or wherever they're doing. From there, they'll get stronger, they'll get more agile, but that's the basis of what you do in the weight room, is put muscle on the athlete. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So we've had a bigger emphasis on getting the kids bigger.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not bodybuilding per se, so we started looking at more efficient ways to get the kids bigger, and it's made a massive difference.
Yeah.
And obviously with the younger population, there's so much emphasis putting weight on the bar. Let's put 5 extra pounds on it. You know what? Let's just get you a little bigger. And I saw that with my own training, is my squat and deadlift and everything else was always going up. But my bench sucked, and it wasn't until I got big, like muscular. Yeah. That's when I was like, wow, well, there's the fucking proof right there.
Yeah.
So
it also helps with kids this age to. Well, if they look big, they're gonna have that confidence.
There's a couple. So early on, even before this whole Boyd Epley kind of revolution in my head, I always said we always want to athlete the lower and bodybuild the upper.
Yeah, right.
And I said, all we're looking for is building armor. So I don't really care if your bench goes up. That's great. It probably will go up, but let's just worry about getting as much armor on top. And then I joke around with the kids. I said, all I care about is the battle of the bus.
Yeah.
If you walk off the bus and you look big, everything else is on the coaches. Go fuck themselves.
But you know those kids look at it and go, oh, fuck, these kids look huge. My old man does that. He'll sit in the stands and go, oh, these guys look huge.
Well, our head coach is notorious for, for the programs. All our kids are about an inch, 2 inches shorter and 40 pounds lighter.
Right.
So then our kids come out, for a game.
It's a misdirection.
Yeah, and like 6'4", 270.
Yeah.
We've got a couple kids who are, linemen who are, I think 5 of our old linemen are 250 and above.
Right.
Just fucking big dudes. And so we came out, and their head coach yelled, because you can see all the other kids like, oh man, he's like, they're not as big as they look. I was like, what do you mean?
No, they're exactly as big as they look.
It doesn't make any sense.
They're a lot bigger than the program said they are. Is all.
Because they'll have a kid listed like 6'1", 200, and he comes out, he's 6'2", 235. It's like, fuck, dude. He's like, hey, you ate a little more before the game. What can we say?
That's brilliant. I love that.
It's just psychological work.
Yeah.
He loves that stuff, and he goes to football conventions all the time. They always ask him, like, what are you guys doing, man? He's like, we just fucking max out every day.
Like the Russian weightlifters used to do to us.
Dude, man, we're puking.
Yeah.
Everything is about puking. Like, really? He's like, yeah, dude, 7 days a week, man. Max out and puke them.
They'll get huge.
You're like, wow. I was like, yeah, can I say it works? Meanwhile, and his brother is the head coach here. His brother's a head coach. And I know him fairly well, just obviously from being here. He coaches at another school. But anyway, he asked Kyle, like, can I come in and watch you guys train? He's like, yeah, but he's like, it's nothing that spectacular.
Right.
Like, you're not going to be wowed by anything.
Right, you're just learning new exercises.
It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And when I told the kids initially, I'm like, you're going to do about 7 exercises for the first year, and that's all we're going to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be boring. You're probably, and like, just trust me, you will get fucking strong, and you will. But just bear with me on this one because it'll work, and it did. So I mean, we vary stuff a little bit here and there. I'd let especially early on, like right now, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, give me one of your push exercises you want to do for this, and I'll let the seniors pick something to do. But it's like the illusion of choice. You can do push-ups or dips.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a big difference. And a lot of it came from just talking with you at Swiss, but my people do 10 exercises, and strangely, they all get in shape, they all get stronger, they're all looking better, it doesn't have to be, when you were at Westside, that was a thing, inundate you with all these different exercises, but.
Well, the weird thing was I got that idea, and I wish I had saved the article. I read an article by a rugby coach, and he said the reason why he didn't switch exercises, he had 2 reasons. One, that if the players went on their own, they knew what to do. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like reverse lunge, overhead barbell squat.
Looking up YouTube videos.
Like, fuck, dude. Like, it was squat, bench, chin up, whatever he had them do. So he goes, I'd limit the exercises. And number 2, we can train hard during the season and never get sore. Yeah. And that's straight from the Bulgarians. Once their bodies adapted, they did very few exercises. And obviously John Bros was huge in that. So, we have our 3, we do the bench press, the squat, and the trap bar deadlift, and then our assistance exercises pretty much all the same thing with a couple variations here and there for the kids. But, we've done a few different things this year, but for the most part, it's we started pushing for PRs more. Mm-hmm. But when I did that, we had to take something out. Because my big thing is if you put something inside of a program, something's got to come out.
Sure.
You can't just keep on piling shit out.
Makes
sense.
So
we took out a couple little things here and there, and it seems to have worked very well. And the atmosphere is a little different and maybe a little more competitive in here with that. Our kids are making good progress. So, but
man, I think I think it's the way to go. And like I said, when I talked to my son's coach, I said, if you're not going to hire me, at least find out what these guys are doing, and don't throw in all these exercises just because you think you have to throw them in because Michigan did them last year or something.
The big thing is like I think a lot of people think like the kids are going to get bored, and I think if you're in the personal training world, that's a little different.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're kind of a slave to that person.
Right.
And I don't mean that in a negative way, but they're paying you and all
Yep.
this stuff.
You have to be entertaining them a little bit.
And with sports, like the outcome is the most important thing as far as on the field. And once we had that good year, everyone's like, fuck it.
Instant buy-in.
He says squat, this is what we're gonna do. And one of the best things we ever did was take out the squat during the season too.
Yeah.
I got that from Buddy Morris, just because it takes a lot of the hamstrings out because you're sprinting so much during the season. So we just trap our deadlift. And that lift we've noticed, at least I've noticed, is we can train that lighter than any other lift and make the best gains.
Really?
So most of our kids' training maxes for the trap bar are probably 70, 75%. So it's light enough so during the season the kids aren't, of course they're used to the exercise, but it's not like they're, if they're a 500-pound deadlift, they're not pulling 470.
Right,
and,
right.
We could maintain that level of strength by training fairly low. And I don't know if that's just the trap bar. Maybe it's the deadlift too. I don't think I deadlifted during the season for years, and it was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
The lower back fatigue was horrid.
Yeah, I like the percentages on that too. I think it gives them a chance to be explosive, but there's still some weight on the bar. They're practicing good technique, and
The other good thing is now that we got the junior high, and now we have a true 4 to 5, 6 years of training where we can just, we don't have to rush the bar, or we're putting weight on the bar. It's not like it's like you don't have to, cram for a test, so to speak. And that's why we run year round. We don't run a lot. That's one of the, Boyd Epley doesn't, that's one of the big things Boyd is against, is running during the off season. But I think he believes like what was done when I was in school and what goes on today is they have insane running.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. So football season, let's just say if you don't go to a bowl game, ends in November. Mm-hmm. By the end of that November, the players are only in shape to do what they're asked to do on the field and in practice.
Yeah.
So you're really in the best shape for your sport, but the worst shape overall.
Right.
Then they have December off for the most part, and they come back in early January. And that's when they put them through the 3 days a week, 6 a.m., crazy fucking. So you putting them to the most amount of conditioning when they're least prepared, which makes no sense to me. And so now then you have spring ball. So now the kids are exhausted. They didn't really gain any strength. And so now you got another 3 or 4 weeks that are shitty. So when are you going to get stronger?
Right.
So, now a lot of that is just, Texas A&M or whoever, they do that. So it's the coaches think, we got to do that too. It's like, man, why don't you guys think outside the box? So that's why I still believe in what Boyd says, except I still think running 1000s will do more harm than good.
Yeah.
And that's all we do, a lot of 100s and 50s during the, and we do the prowler during the off season. And running, I tell the kids, I don't care how hard you run, just run.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for their strengthening their, because if you and I started running all of a sudden, like your next day, like your ankles and, and your hips, if you maintain some of that musculature, it's not a big shock to the system when we start bringing it up just a little bit during the off season. So that's why we just keep it really simple and easy. And again, a lot of this is, and I talked to the head coach, it's like, what did we do that we liked when we were kids, and what did we do that I fucking hated?
Yeah.
It was stupid. I'm like, why do you keep on doing stuff that was stupid? So like even in a case of like a major college program, you can still do the 6 a.m. stuff, but have them lift, have them do some easy basic conditioning. You can have them do some of the stupid stuff here and there. But now you have a 6 or 8 week period where you can actually get the kids stronger, and then you can slowly get them in the shape, because that's when it doesn't make it, it's like, that, like the whole thing of like Western periodization, where like, we're going to start with sets of 10 and then go down. Well, like this is, the sets of 10 are the most stressful to the system.
I would much rather do 2s and 3s.
But you might as well do sets of 5, let your
Right.
body adapt for a while, and then you can maybe go to a higher volume stuff. But when you're the least trained for it, that's when you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I remember sitting at EFS thinking, like, well, that seems kind of dumb now that I think about it. I'm like, if you don't, you know, the tens, the old classic training. And even Ed Cohn over the years, he's like, yeah, I would just do, during that time, I would use weights I would do sets of 10 with, but I just do 5s.
Right.
And then, you know, because you recover better. And,
It's that same thing that you're talking about with, you know, like that grease in the groove, where I can do 10 pull-ups, but maybe I'm just going to do 5, you know, and just do them perfectly and do them over and over again.
And there, once the kids get a little good at a lift, especially when you're more advanced, a set of 5 reps done with a 10 rep weight, or set of 10 with a 10 rep weight, let's say, can be very stressful.
Yeah.
And so you can do dumbbell incline presses until failure, and you're like, or tricep push downs or whatever. So we take that shit to failure. But what we did was, once we started doing the PR sets, which is essentially almost to failure, we took out any of the barbell supplemental lifts. We didn't even do any back down sets. Once the main stuff is over, for the most part, everything is assistance work.
Yeah.
Where we used to just work up to a moderate set of 5, then we would back down. That had the back down stuff had to come out if we were going to go ahead and push hard.
Yeah.
So, well, it's kind of a balancing act. You know, I think John Meadows always said it best. He's like, every time you train, you dig a hole. You better make sure that thing is filled up before you come in. And you know, training is a glass full of water, and everything you do, you dump out a little more. So if you add something in, you know, the cup's going to be real empty real quick. You know? And so.
I love it, man. I want to thank you for having me down here. You know, I was giving your wife was trying to get this to do an online interview. I don't ever do those because I like to have a conversation with somebody.
I get it.
And the thing of it is I've listened to your podcast before, and the ones that are in person are great, and the ones that aren't, they don't get your jokes. There's like a big delay.
No.
And I'm always like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I want to thank you. I'd love to do this again. And
where you're from? Pennsylvania?
Cleveland, just
okay.
Outside of Cleveland, a little town called Vermillion.
That's the home of all the serial killers. More serial killers have come out of Cleveland than anyone else.
Shit.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's a tough town, man. And there's a great thing I read that Cleveland, and I don't know when this was, maybe the 40s or 50s. It was going to be an up and coming town.
Right.
And then it just hit hard times.
You should. We did a podcast with Rick Perello, 2 of them actually, who wrote Kill the Irishman.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, he got into it because both his uncles were killed. They were rum runners going back and forth across Great Lakes, and they got whacked. And he became a police chief, but then he got real into the mob. And that movie in the book is fantastic, but it was good. He was talking all about that.
There's the new one that's on Netflix, right?
That's The Irishman.
The Irishman. I saw the Kill the Irishman
with Danny Green.
Yeah. That was. They said how many car bombings were.
ATF had to move their office from Cincinnati to Cleveland.
It's like, holy fuck.
Well, he wrote that book, and then they based the movie off of it. The only thing that Danny Green's family was pissed at was there was one scene where they threw a bomb into a cop's car.
Yeah.
The only
like,
thing
we never did that
right,
shit.
We did everything else except for that. We never did that. It was awesome. Yeah, that was a good one. But
I like that movie, man. And it's funny because people are like, we're such a violent society now. I'm like,
now,
dude, we've been violent for thousands of years, let alone in the 70s. I can't imagine how many people thought that was the end of the world.
Yeah.
Because it was the Vietnam, and they had a lot of the race relations were the shit. So when I hear, like, I talk to my son, I'm like, dude, don't worry.
Yeah,
like,
Iran's going to be fine.
Yeah. They're not going to do shit.
There's no Mongols at your front door. There's no plague. You're going to be fine.
You're going to be all right, kid.
Yeah.
I laugh because he gets it now. I think, for the most part, he's 15 years old now, but he's starting to see it now. He's like, whenever something comes up, he's like, "Did you just assume my gender, Dad?" Because that's like a big laughing
What's your pronoun?
And I'm like, shit, are they teaching you? He's like, yeah, some people are just, But I'm like, this is Texas, man.
You know what? My kid is inundated with a lot of that stuff, but the good thing about it is someone made a comment that raising kids today was so hard, and it's not, because if you give them just a little bit of work ethic
Yep.
and a little bit of
It's
toughness,
no different.
they'll murder everybody,
Yeah, no.
you know?
That's why someone asked me about that, and I'm like, dude, my kid's going to be fine because you're going to be, all they got to do is just show up to work on
Yeah.
time. That was there was my youngest kid loves chicken nuggets. And so we go through the drive-through and stuff, and there was a girl that worked there, and 6 months later, she's assistant manager. And I'm like, that fucker just showed up on time.
Yep.
That's all she
That's
fucking
all
did.
she had to do.
It's like you don't really need to do, a ton of work. And this just has nothing to do with anything, but I was trying to teach my kid. I'm like, let's look at the minimum wage thing.
Yeah.
And I said, they always say, well, you need to have a livable wage and all this stuff. And I said, fine, okay, let's just go with that.
Right.
Now. How about you stop taxing me?
Yeah.
That's never the fucking answer.
No.
Whoa. Because the only reason why I want to raise the minimum wage is so they can take more money out of their fucking pay. But if you tell them, all right, how about no income tax up to the first $250,000? We'll let everyone keep whatever they make. What do you think? No, whoa. What are you, fucking crazy? How am I supposed to give? Like the old joke is anyone who works 40 hours a week shouldn't have to struggle. It's like, well, stop giving it to other people who don't work 40 hours.
That's right. You get plenty of that money in your check already if they just let you keep it.
And so when you start looking at stuff like that, you're like, oh, so that the answer is very. I'm not saying the answer is always that simple, but that's never been proposed.
Do you ever see the Parks and Rec where Ron Swanson's teaching the little girl how to, he takes her sandwich and takes a huge bite out of it?
What is he? First, don't sass me, Burkus. And
you didn't even know the little girl's name.
Yeah. And what is his last bite was?
It's some other kind of tax.
I used to know this by heart because my oldest son always laughs because I've told him.
Yeah.
It's shit. Capital gains tax.
Capital gains tax, right.
Whoops, that's a capital gains. And gives her a fucking landmine.
Gives her a claymore. Here you go.
And it's like, what does government matter? It doesn't. Well said.
Yeah, that show, I love Ron Swanson. He's my favorite. But yeah, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
I've taken up plenty of your time. Please
not a
tell your
problem.
wife thank you for putting up
Mark,
with
thank
me.
you very much. I know I'm just a pain in the ass, but I'm just.
Well, the other thing is I'm sure you get inundated with these things too, and I could have been a serial killer or who knows.
The one thing I try to, even the head coach, like he doesn't give my number to anyone. He's like, dude, he goes, you volunteer, I spend a lot of time, like I just want to, when I'm at home, I want to be at home and I want to be with my wife and my kids. Having that motorcycle accident was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
It was I remember I was in that fucking ditch in the dark of night, not knowing I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck. My wife was 6 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, I regretted every fucking day I worked. Every day I worked, I fucking hated myself.
That's a great lesson for people.
I remember I reached up to see if I could move. Like the first thing I did was check my dick.
Of course,
my wife's like,
I get that.
Yeah. And then.
All right, I'm okay. Everything else can be fixed.
And then I didn't, because my back hurt so bad because of the road rash. It was fucking brutal. And I was like, I don't know if, and I wiggled my toes, and I was like, thank God, at least I'm not right now paralyzed. And then I remember I reached up because my buddy had just gotten off his, he was riding with me, and he saw it, obviously heard it, and saw it. And I reached up, and I had just fucking blood gushing, like I had stigmata. And I was like, holy shit. And then I remember, like, I tried to keep a good attitude. And of course, my buddy, who is 6'4", 280, just fucking beat. He trained with me at Westside.
Okay.
He's got arms. He's one of those assholes who never does curls, and his biceps are like 22
Who is
inches.
this?
Will Ramsey is his name.
Okay.
He built my chopper for me. Like,
Okay.
we're good friends and stuff like that. So the kid who hit me, of course, he was texting.
Jesus Christ.
Will's obviously 6'4", 280, and just fucking jacked all hell, tattoos, and I mean, comes from the smartest family I've ever been around. Like, you want to feel like a dumb piece of shit, and go over there. Dad's a surgeon. You know, two of the kids went to Juilliard.
Jesus Christ.
You know?
Yeah.
So you're just like, yeah, I've only written a couple books. Like, well, that's still pretty good. But Will is off his bike, and he's like, you mother... And he's like, we're all gonna fuck you right now. His kid's like...
And he's texting the whole time, these guys are gonna fuck me.
And, but I remember, like, I gotta keep a good attitude and stuff, and I remember them putting me on the, you know, they had to put me in not a helicopter, but a ambulance, and they couldn't get the neck thing around my neck. And I was like, well, something's paying off. That saved my life, man. I didn't have a helmet on. And this is a fucking crazy, like, my being strong made a huge difference. But when I went to the Air Force Academy, you have to stand at attention, whatever you're doing. You're eating at attention.
Yeah.
And they tell you, which is bullshit, like when you eject out of a airplane, you have to keep your chin tucked to your chest, or you're gonna, you know.
Yeah.
They probably tell you the same thing in NASCAR. When
Yeah.
you get in an accident, you know, you have to keep keep your hands in. And I remember two things went through my head. I got hit from like the side behind, and I remember, holy fuck, this is how it's ending. And number two, keep your chin tucked,
Yep.
and let's fucking keep things tight.
Yep.
So every time I hit and rolled and skidded, I let out air and got tight again. I don't know how the fuck. And I was like, dude, it's been 30 years since I've been in the Air Force Academy.
Right. And in a split second, you remember it.
I was like, holy fuck. I just remember, like, I can't believe I'm fucking dying. This is fucking horrible. So, but that was a huge eye opener for me, man. And not, you know, I wrote an article one time that said everyone should get hit by a car.
Yeah, right. No, I get where you're coming from.
The point being is, man, it really makes you realize what's awesome in life. And yeah, all I want to do was see my wife and my kids and hang out. And it wasn't even like anything special. I'm just like, I want to fucking play PlayStation with my kids.
No,
like,
yeah, I understand
I
that.
Sit around and watch a movie and but by that, I was even if I had died then, I hadn't. I don't know when that was. That was in May. It was actually May 30th, almost 5:31.
Yeah.
It was just like 30 minutes before midnight. But I remember thinking, I'm glad I had quit my job, so I was probably 7 months where I was working for myself, and I got to do what I wanted. Like, this is it, man.
Yeah.
At least I got to spend 7 months of my life not tied to a fucking desk. So, but it was it was awesome for me. And it's funny because I still take showers today, thankful. Because when you have road rash, because they have to take a steel brush.
Brutal. Oh, get all the shit out of there?
Yeah, it's fucking horrid. And my wife, made a Neosporin and like Aquaphor, like, like
right,
double toilet,
right.
A big old jar of it, and she spread it on me and wrapped me in plastic every day. And but I still get in showers today, and I turn my back, I'm like, oh, it doesn't hurt. I mean, it's been what,
right,
5 years, and it's funny because I still drive up to my house every day, thankful I have a home.
Yeah.
And I've owned my house for 16 years now, and it's I bought that house when I was struggling.
Right.
And obviously we could buy 3 times the size
right.
of this, but we almost own it, by the way.
Yeah.
You know how awesome that's going to be?
I was going to say, that's freedom.
I know.
Fucking freedom.
What do you think our property tax here in London is?
Probably not horrible.
No. We bought the lot next to our house so no one would build.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that is $60 a year.
I would have guessed more than that, been plenty happy.
Now, granted, there's no structure on there.
Right.
So then I don't know how much it was per year. But I remember when I told you my dad and I went to Northwestern games. Well, Northwestern is in Evanston, Illinois. Fucking beautiful homes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, beautiful homes. And like you and I,
it's not
we could win the lottery.
Right.
We're like, they wouldn't let us kind of like,
camouflage. Tattoos. I'm not gonna.
But so we were walking the game. This was 3 years ago. My dad's, because now I'm a little older. He's like, you know what the property taxes here are like? And he told me, I was like, holy, it's like $30,000 a year. That means I could buy my house
and still
give it to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, what a fucking racket they're
yeah.
doing here. because you basically don't own anything in America. It's all leased from the government, which
that's another Ron Swanson.
Yeah,
Taxation is theft.
Oh, like I understand there's some need for it, but if you list all the taxes,
if you took away all the shit we pay for, we don't need the taxes.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't need to be what they are.
No, it's such a, and it's funny because my wife talked to someone from like I think Cambodia, and it's unbelievably corrupt.
Yeah.
Like we accept a little bit of corruption,
Right.
like it's kind of part of the game, but at some point we're gonna have to step it up because I see these guys trying to take away like freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And like I heard something great. One of the up and coming presidential hopefuls, like, who needs a 15-round magazine to hunt? You must be a pretty bad hunter. And someone said, well, why do you need a disarmed populace to govern? You must be a pretty shitty ruler.
Right.
And my question is what are you planning to do that you don't want us to have the right to fight tyranny? And then people will say, how are you going to fight the government, the army? It's like, you want to go ask the dudes in Vietnam?
You want to go ask
the Taliban?
The Russians who didn't want to invade because they knew there was a grandma behind every door with a shotgun, you know?
But our elite forces had trouble with the Taliban.
Yeah, right.
You know, and they, you think they were fucking well trained? They had a pull-up bar. And,
right.
And they did a couple sand walks, like, all right, let's go.
Let's do it. We're in.
You know?
Yep.
Does this AK fire? Well, we'll see. It's just, so, you know, that's another thing. Like I try to teach my kids, like, listen, there's some fundamental rights that we have here that we can't, and it's, as long as a couple people are carrying the torch, we're going to be okay. But
Yeah,
as soon as it fucking dies out, man, it scares me.
Well, 360 million people, you'd think you'd be able to get some decent people to vote for, you know?
Yeah, I know. That's the other bad thing is, and the other, you know, it's, I remember when I was a kid, not when I was a kid, but probably when I was in college, so I guess technically I was a kid, I remember thinking, because this is when a lot of the Catholic Church stuff was coming out.
Yeah.
And then I found out later that a lot of the kids I went to school with were victims of the priests, and I started thinking, like, what? You know, they say like, whoever wants to be president probably shouldn't be president.
Right.
They're an egomaniac. And I'm like, well, what attracts these kind of predators to Catholicism? Like, well, you have to be celibate and you have to be poor. Like the two things that every guy doesn't want to be. So you have to be attracting some fucked up dudes. Not saying all of them are fucked up. But when you take away the two driving forces, like, listen, I'm going to get fucking rich, I'm going to get fucking pussy.
Yeah.
And it's like, what guy doesn't want that? It's like, oh, that guy.
That weird guy who's now.
So it's the same thing with being, you know, president. It's almost like you got to have someone who doesn't want to be president, who's reluctant, you know. It's almost what George Washington, he didn't want to be
president. They had to go and beg him.
Yeah. They wanted him to be king. And he's like, fuck no, that shit. So, I don't know. I don't want to get too political here.
We'll do that on the next one for sure.
Yeah, we'll just turn this thing off.
All right. I want to thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we'll do it again sometime.
Yes,
I am
thank
super
you.
psyched. All right. This has been The Refined Savage with Jim Wendler. See ya.